Hey, what's up, everyone? Back again. Week 13 game previews. Regular season winding down. Definitely the playoffs are starting to show some form. Definitely still some spots available though. And it all starts with this game. This is the game of the week. We got Chris and True North taking on Ryan and Deuce Bombers. Basically, Ryan can clinch the number one seed for the playoffs with a victory here. Definitely an important game for him. It's always nice to make sure you play that worst team theoretically in the quarterfinals. Whereas with Chris and True North, um, big loss last week to Rosen Fighting Geese, and it doesn't get any easier, obviously, this week against Ryan and Deuce Bombers. And a loss here, and all of a sudden True North could be in trouble. So obviously there's a lot of teams that will be hoping for Ryan and Deuce Bombers in this one. But True North and Chris still controls his own destiny, and it's up to him. But this week's going to be a tough game for him, so we'll have to keep our eye on this one as the week progresses. Next game, we got Brian in the 12th man, sitting at 9-3, taking on Justin and Falcon Power at 7-5. Brian in a must-win here if he wants to have any hope at getting the West Division. And he also needs to get some help from Chris and True North to set up next week's game against Deuce Bombers, potentially being for the division. If Ryan and Deuce Bombers wins, obviously Brian will have to settle for a wild card. On the flip side, Justin and Falcon Power still in the driver's seat to clinch the South Division. But a loss here and a win by me, the commission, and all of a sudden we'll be tied. But he does also own the tiebreaker, obviously, because he beat me earlier this year. So obviously Justin and Falcon Power in the driver's seat. Obviously a very important game for both teams and a good measuring stick for both these teams to see how they're going to fare up in the playoffs. Next up, we got Lucas and Green Lightning taking on George and the Champion. No doubt about it. Just like last year for Fighting Geese, they had the epic collapse that knocked them out of the playoffs. For Lucas, I mean, to be at 5-2, trade away the future, and then all of a sudden have 5 straight losses, and you see Justin Forsett, Chris Johnson, 2 of your starting running backs go out. Just an absolute disaster for him. Whereas George and the Champion, similar fate. Traded away a lot of his draft picks for next year to try to defend the title, and obviously it's not paying off. And I mean, George, he's gloated on here before, so we'll see if he'll be gloating after this week. Obviously, Templars kind of shut up his mouth, I guess. But for both teams, obviously must wins if they want to make the playoffs. But their hopes are definitely very dim at this point. Next up, we got Robert and Templars taking on inactive Mastodons. No doubt about it, I'm rooting for Robert here. Like I say, any inactive team, I just want to see them lose. Of course, we don't touch it though to keep it fair. But for Robert and Templars, what a story this guy's been. 1-6, 5 straight wins, kind of the opposite of Lucas. And now all of a sudden controls his destiny for the East Division and holding a playoff spot right now. So, Robert and Templars, definitely a huge congratulations to him. And I mean, not to mention smart management. He's got 2 first rounders for next year. So definitely a great job by Robert and Templars this year and a huge improvement from last year. Next up, it's Milan, Toronto Turnarounds, taking on Sean and Haha Clinton Dix. Looks like Milan should ride his way to 11 straight wins here. Definitely an important game, though. Obviously, still battling it out with Krista and Storm for that North Division crown. But, you can't have any hotter team right now than a team that's going for 11 straight wins. So, congratulations to Milan. Obviously, for Sean, he's hoping to get in the top 4 picks, I'm sure. I mean, I know he's setting his lineup the right way. But let's face it, he doesn't even have a starting quarterback anymore. So, but good luck to to both teams, but obviously this one looks like it's Milan all the way. Next up, we got Martin and Canadian Raiders taking on the Commish. Basically, I'm actually still in it, if you can believe it. Basically, if Chris loses against Goose Bombers and I beat Martin and Canadian Raiders, I would actually be in the playoffs, as far as I know, unless the champion wins. Then it gets into all kinds of different tiebreaker scenarios. But obviously, must win for the Commish. For Martin and Canadian Raiders, I think solid ownership for this franchise. I know the season didn't really go the way you expected it to go, but definitely think this owner is gonna bring definitely some competitive nature, and I think the East Division is gonna get better and better. Next up, we got Krista and Storm taking on Mike and Winnipeg Jets in a divisional battle. For Krista and Storm, definitely a team that has to be reckoned with. 10-2, still fighting it out for the North Division. Obviously, does not hold the tiebreaker against Milan. So as long as Milan takes care of business, he'll win that division title. But for Krista and Storm, she's just looking for a chance for him to slip up. With Mike and Winnipeg Jets, obviously he's struggled this year. Not even sure if he's going to make the consolation playoffs. Again, though, like I say, I'm going to watch people's lineups, make sure that people aren't tanking, making sure they're putting their best players in their lineups. And if they're not, like I say, the Commish will take over. This is a competitive league. You stay competitive to the end, and we'll talk about another team that's doing just that here later on. Next up, we got Rose and Fighting Geese taking on Robert and Brady as the GOAT. For Rose, no collapse this year. Congratulations to Fighting Geese. It looks like they're going to get into the playoffs here. For Robert and Brady as the GOAT, wow, you did it. First win. Didn't get the perfect season like everybody, I think, was hoping you'd get. But it's good to get that first W. I know you're not going to be back here next year. But congratulations nonetheless. Next up, we got Rick and Apples and Oranges taking on Steven and US1. So when I talk about guys remaining competitive to the end of the year, obviously, Steven's a prime example. A team that has struggled all season, and with a couple losses here by the champion and the Templars, it would be in a three-way tie for that East Division. Got to give him credit battling it till the end. Looking like he might qualify for the consolation playoffs. It just makes me wonder though, Steven, does history repeat itself? Last year you made it into the consolation playoffs, and you finished last, and you ended up with the 12th pick. Remember the consolation playoffs, the winner gets the 5th pick, 2nd, 6th pick, and so on. So that'll be interesting to see, Steven. I hope it doesn't happen to you, but you never know. And then for Rick and Apples and Oranges, still battling here. Hopefully the owner that takes over your team next year will be able to do a better job at drafting, and maybe be able to utilize guys like Kevin White if he ever pans out. And in this week's Staker of the Week, we got Mike and Brian Fantana's Lady Killers taking on inactive Thunderbolt 777. This is no insult to Mike and Fantana. It's more of just the fact that Mike has already said he's not going to be in the league next year, and let's face it, Thunderbolt 777 is inactive. So, basically, I'm really looking forward to the 2 new owners taking over these teams. 5 new owners next year. You guys have been getting the other league standings. There's that one guy in League of Champs B, runs a team called Rogue Wave. Guy's 12-0. Obviously, this guy knows what he's doing, and it's going to bring some new blood into a league that's really just wants the best owners, and I just want to say a thanks to all you guys coming here week after week and setting your lineups, having fun with the football. For me, I'm a diehard Browns fan. I'm sure you guys probably know that by now. And seeing the way they lost Monday night, it's kind of depressing. I almost felt like that one guy wanting to rip the jersey, but it's great to come back here and be competitive with you guys, and really looking forward to another great week of football. See you on Sunday.